Hello and welcome to my show Indus Cuisine, and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. We're back with a new episode from the heart of Pakistan. Today's recipe is very interesting, and this recipe is a household treat in Pakistan. We're making a recipe which everyone loves, but everyone cannot make it. There are some special households in Pakistan, some special families who have kept the secret of this recipe, and because I have a few friends in those families, I brought you this recipe today on the show Indus Cuisine. So today's recipe is very easy and we call it Balti Gosht. This recipe is known as Balti Gosht. Why? Because this recipe was made back in the day in very big quantities, in bulk quantities, and was served on events such as weddings and, for example, when someone was born. So in Pakistan, people celebrate that moment. So today's recipe is very easy and the ingredients are easily accessible. Now remember, this recipe back in the day was made with sheep meat, but now today we will be making this with veal. Veal is another form of beef. It's a little bit easier to cook as compared to beef, and it is easily available throughout the country or wherever you're living in the west or east. Today's recipe's ingredients are, we're using around a kilogram of veal meat. We'll be using the meat without any bone. Then you'll be using some turmeric powder, garam masala. Everyone knows that garam masala is a mixture of 5 different spices and it is very aromatic, and we should add this masala towards the end. Then you need some ginger, you need some garlic, you need some lemon juice, you need some black peppercorns, you need around 3 pieces of green chilies, you need some yogurt, you need around 4 to 5 tablespoons of oil, you'll be needing some cumin seeds and coriander seeds. For this recipe today, we won't be using coriander powder or coriander or cumin powder. Why? Because the flavor of this recipe will be maintained with the actual product, or the thing which is basically processed and then converted into a powder form. Then you need around 2 onions, you'll be needing around 5 tomatoes and some coriander. That is it. Firstly, what we'll do is, because this recipe is beef oriented, veal oriented, we shall get ready with the meat and we'll put in the pressure cooker and let it cook for around 20 minutes. What we have to do first is we just have to take the cling wrap off and make thin slices of the beef. So what I'll do is, first I'll just cut the beef, but before that I will wash it thoroughly. So as you can see that I've washed the beef properly, but remember, before starting with the cutting process, you must dry the beef. So I'll just take some paper towels and just pat the beef. Why? Because if the beef is wet, what will happen is it will make the knife slip, and if the knife slips, there's a chance that you can get hurt. Okay, this is done. Now what we'll do is we'll start cutting it. I'll throw the tissue paper in the bin, and they're 2 small pieces. I'll just take this one off from the bigger one, and I'll keep this for later on. So what I'll do is I'll take a plate or a small bowl, I'll keep it in this and I'll let it rest on the side. Okay, this is more than enough. So what you need to do is, first you need to make pieces like this. Always remember to have a different knife for the meat. That will always help you in cutting it properly. The thinner the blade is, the better the cuts will be. Okay, so we'll keep it like this and we shall just cut fillets. This goes here. Now press it down and just go through the meat. We need to bash the meat down, and the reason behind that is it will make the texture of the meat softer and you can cook it in a quicker manner then. Just pull it apart, keep it here. And one more slice from this one. This is done. Now you'll take a kitchen hammer I've kept it here, and you'll take the side which has a few bristles on it. Keep the knife on the side and just start hitting the meat with it. This will make the meat soft, and the texture will also eventually get softer. Turn it around, and this is done. I'll do the same for all the pieces, and then I'll let you know what to do next. So as you can see, the meat is ready. What I've done is I've just made thin slices, and then I bashed it with a cooking hammer. What happens with the cooking hammer is that the beef gets soft, tender, and it cooks in an easier way, in a quicker manner. So now what you'll do is you have to obviously add some water in the pressure cooker, and you'll always add water to a point that the meat starts submerging in properly. This goes in. I'll keep this on the side. And now, before we increase the heat, we need to add a little bit of ginger. So I'll take this much. I'll just cut it into 2 pieces. It goes in. We'll take a piece of garlic. I'll just press it down like this, pick it up and throw it in. And then we'll take around 4 to 5 pieces of black peppercorn, and we'll add it to the water. This is done. You need some salt. Around half a teaspoon goes in, so that the water is seasoned nicely and fairly. And then we'll pick the beef up, and then we'll just add it one by one. Just start spreading it out. You do not want to throw it in the water. You want it to go in the water separately. Why? Because once it goes in separately, it won't stick together, and that is what you need when you're cooking the meat properly. When it sticks together, what happens is that some part of the meat doesn't get the heat properly, and it is not cooked evenly. So remember, you have to cook it evenly, and for that you need to add it to the water in parts. Remember that. Place the lid on top, and then you have to count 20 minutes once the whistle starts blowing. Okay, just press it down and increase the heat to full. Once it starts blowing, you bring the temperature down to medium, and then let it rest for 20 minutes. So till the time this is cooking, what we'll do is we'll prepare for all the other things we need to cook with this recipe. For that, you need a frying pan. Take a frying pan, keep it here, increase the heat to full, and once it comes to heat, we'll add a few onions. You need to brown the onions for this recipe, and for this recipe you want the onions to be sliced. So I'll take the root out. The root always holds the onion together, and if the root is on, you won't get the perfect slice. Cut it over here, keep it on the side, and cut it finely. Try maintaining the thickness of each and every slice of the onion. That gives you an even chance of cooking. You need 2 onions only, and remember, for that you need a medium-sized onion. Turn it around. This is done. Okay, I'll add around, let's say, 5 tablespoons of oil right now. That's it. Place it here, increase the heat, and the heat is at full, and because the pan was already hot, the oil will get hotter quicker. So just add the onions over here. And then we shall add a pinch of salt and let it cook for around 3 to 4 minutes till it gets translucent, and then we shall make it a little brown. Let it get translucent first. Why? Because that way the onions will be soft equally and the texture will be maintained nicely. Okay, mix it up. Spread it out. Take a broom spatula. Keep it here. Take this and let it cook on medium heat for 3 minutes. So till then this is cooking, and this is cooking, we'll go for a short break, and once we're back from the break, I'll let you know what to do. Keep watching Indus Cuisine. Welcome back. You're watching Indus Cuisine and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. We're back with the episode, and what are we going to do next? So the only thing I did was I waited for the onions to get nice and light brown, and as you can see they're nice and brown. Now we'll add a few things more. It's been around 10 minutes that the beef has been cooking in the pressure cooker. We'll give it another 10 without touching it, and then we shall start adding some beef to the ingredients which we'll cook before that. Okay, what you need is you need some tomatoes. So I'll take around 5 tomatoes and we'll finely chop them. So I'll keep them over here and then we shall start chopping them. Take the eye of the tomato off. Let me just sharpen my knife once. This is done. If your knife is sharp, then only your tomatoes will be cut with precision. Remember that. And we shall take these and we shall throw them in the bin. This goes in. Keep the tomatoes on the side and just finely slice them. So we'll cut them from the center first and then we shall start chopping them slowly and gradually. Okay, keep them here. I'll cut one tomato in front of you and the rest you can just see how the end result is. So just cut it very smoothly. And this is what we'll do for all the other ones too. Now you have to add the tomatoes to the oil once you finally chop them, and you should cook them on really high heat. When you cook them on really high heat, remember one thing, they will cook properly and then they will start falling apart and then eventually convert into a nice paste. But this only happens if you have a little bit of oil in the pan. If you don't have a little bit of oil in the pan, what will happen is the texture of the recipe will change completely. So I'll increase the heat to full, and the heat before this was on pilot, so I'll let it cook. On the other hand, what you need is you need a few garlic pieces. We'll just spread them out over here and then we shall just press them like this before you shall chop them. This is done. All the pieces of garlic are here. Now the heat is on full. Take 2 pinches of salt, spread out on the tomatoes, remember that, and mix them around. Take a spatula, press them down, give it a lid, and let it cook for 2 minutes on high heat. On the other hand, finely chop the garlic and go as close as you can. This is done. Clean the blade, scoop it up and add it to the tomato. So as you can see, we've given the tomatoes some time and the tomatoes are nice and soft. What we'll do is we'll just press them a bit but not mash them. So I'll pick up the spatula and I'll start beating them down like this. So basically I am kind of chopping the tomatoes in the pan slowly and gradually till they start splitting. This is done. Now we shall maintain this. Why? Because this recipe will have a nice soupy texture, but we won't be using water in it. We'll be using the broth that comes from the meat over here. On the other hand, you want some ginger. We'll take around half of this, keep it over here, and finally shred it. The shredder is here. Take the thinner side and just closely go in. Turn it around. Keep your hand as away from the blade as you can because you do not want to cut yourself. And this is done. Pick this and throw it in the bin and just shake it up. Pull the strands. And remember, all the juice on the board goes in the pan. So what I'll do is I'll just scoop the juice up first, transfer it here, and we shall not let it go to waste. This is all the flavor that goes in. Just wipe your hands with a piece tissue paper. Mix this again and keep the stove on really low. This is done. On the other hand, the beef is also ready. What I'll do is now I'll dish the beef out and then I'll show you how it looks. Remember one thing, once you've put the stove off, let this rest for at least 20 minutes before you open the lid. Why? Because safety always comes first. So I'll put this on pilot, I'll give this a lid also, and then I'll let you know what to do next. So as you can see, the beef is ready. I'll just show you how soft it is. I'll pick up a piece and I'll just pull it apart. It just took 20 minutes, and the reason it was cooked quickly was because we hammered it down. Once you hammer it down, the muscle splits, and when you cook it, it gets really, really soft. On the other hand, the tomatoes are also done in front of you. Now we shall start cooking the meat. For that, what you need to do is first you need to add the meat in, but you have to increase the heat to the fullest. So the meat goes in. And we shall mix it in the oil. Keep this on the side, you don't need it anymore. Pick up the wooden spatula and start folding it. Let this cook in the juices for around a minute. Give it a lid to control the evaporation and reduce the heat to low. Now what I'll do is I'll just clean up a bit and then I'll show you what to do next. So we gave the meat 2 minutes to rest in the spices. Now why did I let it rest in the spices over here? The reason was because the spices over here were pure with oil, and that would help the meat to absorb the flavor before we add the broth. So now what I've done is I have just increased the heat, and now we'll slowly and gradually add the broth. So I'll take around half a cup first and I'll transfer it in the pan. You want to add around 1 cup and then let it boil so that it enhances the flavor properly and smoothly. So I've just added another cup. Keep the heat high, and now what you have to do is you have to take the pieces of beef and place them individually on the base of the pan. Do not let them crowd over each other. Let this cook, and what I'll do is I'll just give it a lid and I'll prepare all the other things I need. So once this goes down, once the water evaporates, we'll add something else. So step by step you have to take this recipe. I'll transfer all the coriander seeds in my hands. What I'll do now is I'll reduce the heat just for a second, and I shall add the coriander seeds, but you won't add them directly. What I'll do is I'll just make a fist, start pressing them, and then add them so that a few of them start breaking down. And when they break down, what happens is that they release more of their flavor. Now again, what we'll do is, because as you can see the water has evaporated, increase the heat more, add another half cup of water. We'll keep doing this till the time all the spices have gone in. So what we'll do is we'll add half a cup of water, keep the heat on full, mix the spice and then let it dry, and then add another spice in. This increases the flavor of the spice individually and it gives it a nice aroma mixed with all the other flavors in the pan. So we're allowing the ingredients to individually let their flavor in the recipe rather than adding all of them in one go. Now what we'll do is we'll add a few black peppercorns, and because the heat is really high, the water evaporates quickly. Add another half cup of water. And let it cook. Now what you need is you need a few cumin seeds, but they'll go once this water evaporates. Take the green chilies, just take the stem out, that is it, and throw this in the bin. This goes in. Just see that the meat over there is cooking, and just slit the green chilies from the top. They go in as whole, remember that. Add it over here and add another half cup of water. Keep doing this and do not let the spice stick to the pan. So go towards the edges. And I'm mixing it like this so that all the flavor that sticks to the base, which is also called suk, starts mixing again into the flavors of the meat. This is done. Okay, now we should start closing the recipe. So for that, what I'll do is I'll add some garam masala. I'll keep it on the side. I'll add some turmeric powder. Add another half cup of water. Place it on top. Mix it again. And give it a lid for around, you could say, 30 seconds. You need to add a bit of lemon juice in this. So what I'll do is I'll take 2 lemons. I'll take my paring knife. I'll cut it towards the side so that I can avoid the seeds in the middle. So we throw away the center. It goes in the bin. And this way you can avoid all the pits, also known as the seeds of the lemon. This is done. Now what I need is, I need to convert this into a gravy. So I'll keep it over here. I'll just take a little bit of water, the broth basically. Why? Because once I'll take it out, I need some broth so that the masala, the spices don't stick to the bottom. Just shake it around. And I'll transfer all of this into the wok. Try not wasting anything, so I'll scrape all the flavor. I'll transfer it here. Close the lid on this. Let it be on the side. And now we shall add a few more ladles of the broth. As I said, this is a curry which has sauce. This goes in. This goes on the side. And now we shall add a little bit of lemon juice. So let's say lemon juice of 2 lemons goes in directly when it's cooking to add some acidity in the curry. And this is done. Take the skin, throw it in the bin, and now just mix it up. This is done. Reduce the heat now. And towards the end, we shall add the cumin seeds, not right now. So what I'll do is I'll give it a lid and I'll let it cook for around, you could say, 5 minutes till the oil starts coming up. So now I'll show you the final look of the recipe and how we should add the cumin towards the end. I'll let you know. Towards the end, what you'll do is you'll take some coriander, finely chop it, and then add it to the wok. You'll add the coriander in the wok and let it cook for around 3 to 5 minutes with some yogurt, which I've kept on the side. I'll just take it off, mix it in, and increase the heat to full. I want to cook the yogurt in the meat for around 2 minutes on high heat and then dish it out. And when we dish it out, we shall temper it with some cumin towards the end. So let me give it 2 minutes and then I'll show you the final look of today's recipe. So as you can see, today's recipe is ready. I've cooked for around 4 people. This recipe is a little heavy. Why? Because it is meat oriented, and as I showed you that the beef was falling apart. I've just added around 3 tablespoons of oil in the pan. What I'll do is I'll add some cumin, which I had saved in the recipe. I will fry the cumin for, let's say, around 30 seconds on high heat, and as you can see, there are small bubbles coming up. I'll add around just a pinch of salt in the oil, and I'll just mix it around. It needs to be piping hot. Remember it, it needs to be piping hot. And apart from that, in the recipe, I did not add too much of oil. And if you do not want to use the tempering part, you can skip it also. But for this recipe, people do prefer tempering it towards the end. Okay, the oil is ready, it's hot. What I'll do now is I'll just add it on the top. And as you can see, today's recipe is ready. I'll see you in another episode of Indus Cuisine. Take care of yourself, lovely people. Bye-bye.